Sir, come with me now. We got reports of falsified identification.
I'm catching a flight to D.C. This ID is legitimate, government issued.
That's what they all say. 8 years
I know what I'm looking at.
If you just verify the credentials.
The suspicious traveler, Officer Marlon Lowe, just detained at Terminal B's checkpoint, was Special Agent Dylan Brown, a 15-year veteran of the CIA's Counterintelligence Division holding Level 5 security clearance, the highest classification in the United States intelligence community. His credentials were flawless. His records? Impeccable. And his identification, the one Officer Lowe claimed was obviously fake, was issued directly by the Central Intelligence Agency. Before I continue, have you ever been profiled or wrongly accused while just going about your day? Drop your story in the comments. Special Agent Dylan Brown was 37 years old, working out of CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. He specialized in identifying foreign intelligence operatives threatening American national security. He'd testified before the House Intelligence Committee and served as the CIA's liaison to the Director of National Intelligence. His security record was spotless. On this Tuesday afternoon in September 2024, he was traveling for a classified briefing in Washington, D.C., routine government work. He had no idea he was about to become the victim in a case that would expose systemic racial profiling in airport security nationwide. Marlon Lowe had a reputation at Reagan National Airport, and it wasn't a good one. 42 years old, airport police officer for 8 years. Before that, mall security with no federal law enforcement training, only the minimum 40-hour security certification course. Internal airport records would later reveal 34 passenger detentions in the previous 24 months. 30 of them involved Black or Latino travelers. That's 87%. 0 detentions resulted in actual security threats. 0 arrests. March 2023, detained a Black businessman for suspicious behavior. The man was a federal judge. Airport management issued a verbal warning never documented. July 2023, stopped a Latina doctor claiming her medical credentials looked fake. August 2024, confronted a Middle Eastern student about nervous behavior. The student was rushing to catch his flight home for his mother's funeral. 22 formal complaints had been filed about Lowe's conduct in 2 years. All 22 were dismissed internally without investigation. The afternoon rush was in full swing at 4:28 p.m. Dylan Brown walked through the TSA pre-check lane with practiced ease. His government traveler number verified. His TSA pre-check status active. He cleared security without incident. No alerts. No flags. No anomalies. He wore a dark hoodie over a plain t-shirt, light blue jeans, white sneakers. His shoulder-length dreadlocks were pulled back. A black messenger bag was slung across his chest. He looked like any other professional traveler heading home after a long day. In his messenger bag was his tablet loaded with classified briefing materials, his CIA identification, and his Level 5 security credentials. In 43 minutes, he'd be boarding Flight 447 for a national security briefing scheduled for weeks. He didn't notice Officer Marlon Lowe watching him from across the checkpoint. Lowe had been monitoring the security cameras from his position near the checkpoint exit. And then he saw Dylan Brown, a black man. Dreadlocks, hoodie, moving with confidence through TSA pre-check. Something about it struck Lowe as wrong, though he couldn't articulate what. It wasn't an alert. It wasn't a system flag. It wasn't intelligence. It was instinct, the kind that had led him to make 30 detentions of people who looked exactly like Dylan Brown. Lowe stepped away from his position and began walking toward the checkpoint exit. Brown grabbed his messenger bag from the conveyor belt, pulled his rolling carry-on, and started heading toward the terminal. Gate 47 was a 5-minute walk. Officer Marlon Lowe intercepted him 15 feet from the checkpoint exit. "Sir, I need you to step aside for a moment." Dylan Brown stopped, turned, looked at the officer with mild confusion. He'd just cleared security. "Is there a problem, officer?" Lowe positioned himself directly in Brown's path. Feet planted wide, shoulders square, hand hovering near his belt. "I need to see your identification." Brown's confusion deepened. "I just cleared TSA security. My identification was already verified." "I'm not TSA," Lowe said. "I'm airport police, and I need to see your identification again." Around them, travelers began to slow their pace. Several passengers pulled out their phones, instinctively sensing something unusual was happening. Among them were Evie Bentley, a nurse heading home to Baltimore, Randy Rivas, a commercial pilot, Avery Boyd, an attorney, and Dean Horn, a business consultant. Dylan Brown reached into his messenger bag and pulled out his wallet, extracting his identification. It was a federal credential, government-issued, with clear markings indicating his status as a CIA officer. He handed it to Lowe without resistance. Lowe took the identification and examined it under the fluorescent terminal lights. He turned it over in his hands. His expression hardened into suspicion, mixed with certainty. "This doesn't look right," Lowe said. Brown blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "This identification. Something's off about it." "That's a federal government credential issued by the Central Intelligence Agency," Brown said, his tone still calm but edged with disbelief. "There's nothing off about it." Lowe held up the credential as if it were evidence. "I've been doing this for 8 years. I know what fake IDs look like, and this one looks suspicious." Dylan Brown felt the first real surge of concern. "Officer, that credential is authentic. If you have questions, you can call the CIA Office of Security in Langley to verify it. The number is on the back of the card." "Anyone can print a phone number on a fake ID," Lowe said. "You're going to need to come with me for additional verification." "Additional verification?" Brown's voice rose slightly. "I cleared TSA pre-check minutes ago. I have a valid boarding pass for a flight that boards in 40 minutes. What specifically triggered this stop?" Lowe reached for his radio. "This is Officer Lowe at Terminal B checkpoint. I need backup for a potential credential issue." Within 2 minutes, 3 additional officers arrived, forming a loose perimeter around Brown. Marley McDaniel approached from the left. Major Lozano came from the right. Cecilia Melton moved into position behind Brown. Dylan Brown, a CIA counterintelligence officer who had spent 15 years identifying national security threats, found himself standing in the middle of Reagan National Airport, surrounded by 4 armed police officers who believed his federal credentials were fake. Passengers with phones were recording. His flight was boarding in 38 minutes. Dylan Brown took a slow breath and reached into his messenger bag again. "Officer, here's my boarding pass. Here's my TSA pre-check confirmation. And here's my government-issued identification, which you're currently holding." His voice remained steady, controlled. "I've complied with every security protocol. What specifically triggered this stop?" Lowe barely glanced at the boarding pass. "I've been doing this for 8 years. I know what I'm looking at." "Then what are you looking at?" Brown pressed. "I cleared TSA security with no issues, no alerts, no flags. I'm a ticketed passenger with valid government credentials. What reasonable suspicion do you have for detaining me?" Lowe's hand drifted toward his duty belt, fingers hovering near his taser. "Sir, I'm going to need you to stop asking questions and cooperate with this investigation." "I am cooperating," Brown said, his frustration breaking through. I'm a federal intelligence officer with the Central Intelligence Agency. That credential you're holding is authentic. I'm traveling on official government business for a classified briefing. But Lowe's expression didn't change. If anything, his suspicion seemed to deepen. Officer Lennon Wade arrived, the fourth officer to respond. The officers shifted into formation without needing verbal coordination. They formed a tight containment circle around Brown. Hands near duty belts, bodies angled for quick response. To any observer, it looked like they'd cornered a dangerous suspect. More passengers slowed their pace. Evie Bentley held up her phone and started recording. "This doesn't look right," she murmured. Randy Rivas positioned himself to capture the full scene. Avery Boyd began filming with professional precision. Dean Horn recorded from a different angle. Within 60 seconds, 4 different phones were capturing high-definition video of a black man in a hoodie surrounded by armed police officers at an airport checkpoint. Brown reached into his messenger bag one more time, pulling out his official CIA badge. The gold shield caught the light. He held it up at chest level. "My badge number is CIA 8472NK. You can verify my credentials by calling the Office of Security at CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. The verification line is available 24/7. This will take 3 minutes." Lowe stared at the badge. "Anyone can buy fake government IDs online. Badges, credentials, the whole setup. We'll verify everything at the station downtown." "Downtown?" Brown's voice sharpened. "My flight board's in 36 minutes. I have a classified national security briefing scheduled for 7 o'clock tonight. If you have legitimate concerns, call Langley right now, but you cannot detain a federal officer without probable cause." "I have probable cause," Lowe said. "Suspicious identification, evasive behavior, refusal to cooperate." "I'm not being evasive. I'm standing here answering your questions and offering you a direct verification method that will resolve this in 3 minutes. TSA Supervisor Ava Vaughn had been watching from her position inside the checkpoint. She approached with her tablet. "Officer Lowe, what's the situation here?" "Suspicious identification," Lowe said without taking his eyes off Brown. "Potential fraudulent credentials." Vaughn looked at her tablet, scrolling through recent checkpoint clearances. "This passenger cleared TSA pre-check at 4:28 p.m. Government traveler number verified. No alerts, no watch list matches, no secondary screening required." She looked up at the 4 officers surrounding Brown. "What's your probable cause for this detention?" "The identification doesn't look legitimate," Lowe said. "It's a federal CIA credential," Brown interjected. "Badge number CIA 8472NK, Level 5 security clearance. I'm asking you to verify it through proper channels before you escalate this further." The gate agent for Flight 447 approached. "Excuse me, is this about Dylan Brown? He's a ticketed passenger on my flight. Confirmed reservation, government fare code, pre-check verified." She looked at Brown. "Sir, your flight starts boarding in 34 minutes. But Officer Marlon Lowe had already made his decision. "We're going to verify everything at the station. Sir, I need you to put your hands where I can see them." The crowd grew. Within minutes, 9 passengers had their phones out, recording from different angles across Terminal B. Jamie Clayton, a professor, positioned herself to capture the full tactical formation. Boston Casey, a military veteran, filmed from near the checkpoint entrance. Clarissa Ford, an off-duty FBI analyst, began documenting with practiced precision. Luis Melendez, a journalist, captured audio and video while live tweeting the incident. Above them, 23 airport security cameras tracked the scene with cold mechanical precision. Every camera angle, every timestamp, every frame was being saved to airport servers, creating an irrefutable digital record of everything unfolding at 4:37 p.m. on September 23, 2024. Officer Lowe pressed his radio. "This is Officer Lowe at Terminal B checkpoint. I have a suspicious individual with falsified federal credentials refusing cooperation, requesting supervisor on scene." Passengers near enough to hear the transmission exchanged glances. Refusing cooperation? The man had shown his ID, his boarding pass, his badge. He'd offered verification procedures. He'd answered every question. He was standing still with his hands visible, surrounded by armed officers. Airport Police Supervisor Remy Hutchinson arrived at 4:41 p.m. to find a scene that didn't match the description he'd been given. A black man in casual travel clothes stood calmly in the center of a 5-officer tactical formation. Passengers with phones formed a loose semicircle. Recording. A TSA supervisor reviewed her tablet with visible concern. Hutchinson approached. "Officer Lowe, report. What triggered this detention?" "Suspicious identification, sir. Subject was attempting to travel with what appears to be fraudulent federal credentials." Hutchinson looked at Brown. "Sir, may I see your identification?" "It's in Officer Lowe's hand," Brown said, his voice still controlled despite standing in a tactical perimeter for nearly 10 minutes. "Federal CIA credentials. Badge number CIA 8472-NK. I've repeatedly asked him to verify them through the proper channels." Hutchinson took the credentials from Lowe and examined them. He'd seen federal IDs before in his 15 years of airport security. He looked at the holographic seal, the embedded security features, the official formatting. "What made you think these were fraudulent?" Lowe shifted his weight. The identification looked off. Something about it didn't seem right. "Did the system flag him?" "No, sir." "Did TSA flag him?" "No, sir." "Was there a watch list match?" "No, sir." "Did you observe suspicious behavior?" Lowe hesitated. He was moving through the checkpoint with confidence. The way he carried himself seemed inconsistent with his appearance. The words hung in the air. Inconsistent with his appearance. Evie Bentley, still recording, spoke up from the crowd. "I watched him go through security. He cleared TSA normally. There was nothing unusual. The officer walked up and stopped him after he'd already cleared." Randy Rivas stepped forward. "I've been flying for 20 years. I've gone through thousands of security checkpoints. This is racial profiling. That man has done nothing wrong except exist while black in an airport." Avery Boyd, the attorney, spoke with professional precision. "I'm an attorney. I'm witnessing what appears to be unlawful detention without probable cause. That passenger has shown identification, boarding pass, and federal credentials. He's offered verification procedures. And he's been surrounded by armed officers for 10 minutes, based on, and I quote, his appearance being inconsistent with his confidence." TSA Supervisor Vaughn pulled up her records again. "Supervisor Hutchinson, Dylan Brown cleared pre-check at 4:28 p.m. His government traveler number is active and verified. 0 alerts, 0 flags, 0 anomalies." Hutchinson looked at Officer Lowe. "So there was no system alert, no TSA flag, no suspicious behavior, no watch list match. What specifically made you stop this passenger after he'd already cleared security?" Lowe's jaw tightened. "Experience, sir. 8 years of watching passengers. I can spot inconsistencies." "What inconsistency?" "The way he looked," Lowe said. "The dreadlocks, the hoodie, the casual clothes. It didn't match with someone claiming to have high-level government credentials." Hutchinson closed his eyes briefly. There it was. Not evidence, not intelligence, not procedure. just assumption based on appearance. Dylan Brown's voice cut through the tension, still remarkably calm. My badge number is CIA 8472-NK. The CIA Office of Security Verification line is available 24/7. The call will take 3 minutes. After 15 years serving my country, I'm asking you to make that call before this goes any further. Supervisor Hutchinson looked at the credentials in his hand, at the 5 officers surrounding a government traveler, at the 9 phones recording every word, at the cameras capturing every angle. He thought about the TSA records, showing cleared security. He thought about Lowe's explanation that boiled down to dreadlocks and a hoodie, and he reached for his radio to call the CIA. At 4:48 p.m., TSA Federal Security Director Bethany Small arrived at Terminal B after receiving an urgent call. The words CIA credentials and detained passenger had brought her from her office at a near run. She was a 22-year TSA veteran who'd worked through 9/11, who'd helped write federal security protocols, and who knew exactly how catastrophic this situation could become. She took one look at the scene, and her stomach dropped. Supervisor Hutchinson, status. Federal credentials in question, ma'am. Officer Lowe detained this passenger for suspicious identification after he cleared TSA pre-check. The passenger claims to be CIA and has requested verification through Langley. Small looked at Dylan Brown. You're requesting credential verification? Yes, ma'am. Badge number CIA 8472-NK. The Office of Security Verification line is available 24/7. This will take 3 minutes. Small didn't hesitate. Make the call. Now. At 4:52 p.m., Supervisor Hutchinson dialed the CIA Office of Security Verification line from his secure phone. Badge number. Biometric photo match. Security clearance level check. Current operational status. Travel authorization. The process was designed to be fast because situations exactly like this one happened regularly in federal law enforcement. The 3 minutes felt eternal. Dylan Brown stood in the center of the tactical perimeter, his flight now boarding at Gate 47 without him. Officer Lowe stared at the ground, his earlier confidence beginning to crack. The passengers kept recording, and everyone waited. At 4:55 p.m., the verification came through. Hutchinson's expression shifted as he listened. He looked at Dylan Brown with something that might have been horror or respect, or both. Badge number confirmed. Agent Dylan Brown, active status, CIA Counterintelligence Division, Level 5 security clearance. Credentials authentic. Travel authorized for classified government briefing. Officer Marlon Lowe's face drained of color. For 8 years, he'd trusted his instincts about suspicious passengers. For 8 years, his pattern of detentions had never been questioned. And in 3 minutes, a phone call had just destroyed everything. At 4:58 p.m., Airport Police Chief Rudy Ball arrived after being notified that CIA credentials had been verified and an active intelligence officer had been unlawfully detained for 26 minutes. He'd brought his tablet loaded with security footage, which he played for Hutchinson and Small. 4:28 p.m. Dylan Brown clearing TSA pre-check with 0 issues. 4:32 p.m. Officer Lowe approaching Brown without any triggering event. 4:35 p.m. Brown presenting credentials and offering verification. 4:37 p.m. Lowe dismissing the credentials and calling for backup. 4:55 p.m. Verification confirming everything Brown had said. Chief Ball's jaw tightened with each timestamp. He walked directly to Officer Lowe. His voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. "Officer Lowe, badge and weapon. Right now." The terminal seemed to go silent. Lowe unclipped his badge with shaking hands and removed his service weapon from its holster. He handed both to Chief Ball. In front of hundreds of travelers, in front of recording phones, in front of a CIA officer he'd wrongly detained, Marlon Lowe's career ended. TSA Director Small approached Dylan Brown. "Agent Brown, on behalf of the Transportation Security Administration and Reagan National Airport Security, I offer our sincerest and deepest apologies for this unlawful detention. This should never have happened." Brown's response was measured, professional, but edged with steel. "I want federal incident reports filed immediately. I want copies of all security footage from all cameras. I want statements from every witness. I will be pursuing legal action for Fourth Amendment violations, unlawful detention, discrimination, and interference with federal officer duties. I've missed my classified briefing because an airport police officer decided my dreadlocks and hoodie meant my CIA credentials must be fake." Clarissa Ford, the off-duty FBI analyst who'd been recording, stepped forward and showed her own credentials. "Agent Brown, I'm FBI. I witnessed everything. I'll provide a formal statement from a law enforcement perspective. What happened here was inexcusable. At 5:15 p.m., Flight 447 to Washington. Dulles departed Gate 47 without Dylan Brown. His seat remained empty. His classified briefing, scheduled for 7:00 p.m. with senior intelligence officials, would have to be rescheduled. CIA operations would be delayed. And somewhere in Washington, analysts would have to explain to the Director of National Intelligence why their Level 5 counterintelligence officer had been detained at an airport for having the audacity to travel while black. 23 security cameras had captured every moment from every angle. 9 passenger cell phones held continuous footage. Dozens of witnesses had statements ready, and Officer Marlon Lowe stood watching his 8-year career collapse in real time. But the real consequences were just beginning. At 5:23 p.m., Evie Bentley, the nurse who'd started recording, uploaded a 2-minute video to Twitter. Her caption was simple and devastating. CIA agent illegally detained by airport police for fake ID while trying to catch his flight. He cleared TSA. They surrounded him like a criminal. This is racial profiling caught on camera. Justice for Dylan Brown. The video began to spread. By 6:00 p.m., 127,000 views. By 8:00 p.m., 890,000 views. By 11 p.m., 2.1 million views. The hashtag Justice for Dylan Brown was trending number 3 nationally. But it wasn't just the original video anymore. All 9 passenger recordings had been uploaded, each showing different angles of the same injustice. Former CIA Director John Brennan tweeted at 9:47 p.m. "Deeply troubling. Agent Brown's credentials should have been immediately verified through established protocols. This appears to be racial profiling, pure and simple." His 2.3 million followers shared it 47,000 times within an hour. The ACLU responded at 10:15 p.m. Even Level 5 CIA clearance can't protect against racial profiling. This is why we need independent oversight of airport police. CNN's aviation correspondent posted security footage stills. 23 airport cameras captured a counterintelligence officer being detained for his appearance. The irony is devastating. The man who hunts threats was treated as one. By Thursday morning, September 25th, the video had reached 6.3 million views across all platforms. Representative Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, issued a statement. I know Agent Brown professionally. He has briefed this committee on matters of national security. His service to this country is exemplary. What happened at Reagan Airport is not just profiling, it's disgraceful. The Washington Post's headline, CIA counterintelligence agent detained at airport for fake ID he carries daily. The New York Times. Airport police dismiss federal credentials in racial profiling incident. NBC Nightly News prepared a 4-minute segment featuring the security footage and witness interviews. The CIA director issued a formal statement supporting Agent Brown. Current and former intelligence officers flooded social media with their own experiences of being profiled despite federal credentials. The hashtag reached 2.4 million tweets. An online petition demanding Officer Lowe's termination collected 340,000 signatures in 48 hours. Senator Mark Warner announced he would call for congressional hearings on racial profiling in airport security. At 3:00 p.m. on September 25th, exactly 48 hours after Dylan Brown had been detained, the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority issued a statement. After a thorough review of the September 23rd incident, Officer Marlon Lowe's employment has been terminated effective immediately. We are conducting a comprehensive investigation into our detention procedures and training protocols. On September 26th, 72 hours after the detention, Dylan Brown's attorneys filed a federal lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. The case? Brown v. Lowe, et al. The plaintiff, Special Agent Dylan Brown, Central Intelligence Agency. The defendants, Officer Marlon Lowe individually, Reagan National Airport Authority, Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, and Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Police Department. The amount to $2.4 million. The charges were comprehensive and devastating. Fourth Amendment violations for unlawful seizure without probable cause. Title VI. Civil Rights Act violations for racial discrimination in a federally funded program. False imprisonment. Assault through unlawful physical detention and threat of force. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Interference with federal officer duties. And against the institutional defendants, negligent hiring, training, and supervision. The filing included all camera angles, all 9 passenger videos, 15 witness statements, TSA records showing cleared security, radio transmissions, the 3-minute verification call, expert declarations from former CIA officials, statistical analysis of Officer Lowe's detention pattern. On September 27th, 3 additional officers faced consequences. Marley McDaniel, Major Lozano, and Cecilia Melton were placed on administrative leave pending investigation for participating in the unlawful tactical containment. Only Lennon Wade was cleared after evidence showed he'd questioned the detention's legality. The video continued spreading. By the end of September, it had been viewed over 10 million times globally. International news outlets picked it up. Civil rights organizations used it in training. Law schools added it to Fourth Amendment case studies, and airport police departments across America began emergency reviews of their detention protocols. Officer Marlon Lowe's 8-year career was over, but the legal, financial, and systemic consequences were just beginning.